Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Almost forgot what day it is. I'm looking out the window here and we're supposed to be getting snow, 6 inches worth today, and we haven't got any yet. So I was really excited to start up the snowblower and start snow blowing my long driveway. I don't think I'll be snow blowing today. I think they got the weather wrong. Surprise, surprise. Let me adjust this just a little bit here. So today what I'm going to talk about in this video, it's going to be a short one. It's going to be about what it means to be neurodivergent to me. About a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum. And, I've embraced that diagnosis, even though it came, with a lot of baggage at first. It really hit me in the heart. And I got emotional when I was told that I was on the spectrum, but I also didn't think that a person like me could be on the spectrum. I didn't realize it because I didn't know enough about being on the spectrum. I always thought of autism as people that are much deeper into the spectrum, nonverbal, have issues talking, showing emotions, really strong stims, things like that. I didn't realize I had some stims and that I had some things that I just didn't realize were, being on the autism spectrum. So I made some bullet points here. I'm going to go over my little list here and just talk to you guys a little bit about what being neurodivergent means to me. So I know I process the world differently. Loud noises, bright lights, social settings, they can all be overwhelming. And if I hear somebody chewing a little bit louder than I think they should be, oh my gosh, for some reason, that just drives me nuts. It just drives me bonkers. And I need to get out of there. I need to get away. I can't listen to that. And that's always been an issue for me. It's always sad. Another thing, if I'm worked up over something, I owned a company where I dealt with the consumers, with the consumer every day. I dealt with people a lot. And, when you deal with the consumer and you're in that type of business, you're going to have bad customers sometimes. And I'd get a bad customer and get me worked up, and I would pace. I would pace excessively when I got worked up. That was one of my stims, was pacing excessively. About a year and a half ago, I started taking medication. No, it's been longer than that. About 3 years ago, I apologize. It was a year and a half ago I was diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum. But about 3 years ago, I got diagnosed with having bad anxiety, and I knew that. All my life I've had it. But they put me on medication. And since I've gotten on the medication, I'm much more calmer. I don't get worked up like I used to. So I haven't stimmed in that way since I started my medication. Authenticity over social norms. I don't fake who I am to fit in anymore, and I used to do that. I value real connections and not always small talk. It's just one of the things. I used to try to fit in. I knew I felt different, and I try to make that, figure out how to fit in and be somebody I wasn't. I don't do that anymore. Hyperfocus is my edge. Yeah, okay, that's something I know a lot about. So being on the autism spectrum, one of my superpowers is hyperfocus. I can really zone into something to a fault. And where I say it's my superpower is when I was starting a business up, I was so afraid to fail that I dove into it and I couldn't pull myself out of that. And I did that for years, and that's what made my business successful. So that hyper focus, hyper vigilant, just whatever you're focused on becomes part of you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was good at that, but to a fault, because you can't let things go. You can't put it aside. You can walk away from it, and all you're thinking about is getting back over there and finishing and doing what you were doing. So I've gotten better about not being so bad about that, but when I need to focus in on something and get something done, I see it through. And that's one of my traits of being on the autism spectrum. And I do that whether it's business, listening to music, sometimes gaming, things like that. Emotions hit hard now. That's another thing. That's another one of my bullet points here. Grief. Oh my gosh. I went through grief this last year. My dad committing suicide, my dog dying. I have never felt grief like that before. And it hits harder for me than I think some other people. Maybe I'm wrong, but according to when I read about autism, when I feel these emotions that are much stronger sometimes than others. So grief, joy, that anxiety I talk about, I feel them all deeply. Medication helps me manage that intensity, but I still got that grief was the worst I've ever felt. It was a mental grief, but also a physical grief. And it's hard to explain how that felt. It just would come in waves. I'd be okay for a little bit. And this was throughout the day. It'd come in waves. It was the worst. Thinking differently leads to success. In my case, it was. I would think a little differently, and I knew I didn't have all the answers when I was running my business. You know, I would think differently though, and come up with answers that I wouldn't my people working for me wouldn't come up with. So sometimes I looked at things from a different angle, and that worked with me. You know, yeah, it's. So what does it mean to be neurodivergent to me? It just means different, in a different way of looking at things in general, the whole world. I look at it a little differently. Now that I know that I'm part of that autism spectrum, that group of people that can say that, I've accepted it. And, you know, I've come to terms with it. It was, like I say, it was hard at first, but I feel really good about it because it explains so many different things that I've been dealing with my whole life. The bad anxiety, excuse me, guys. The bad anxiety that I dealt with was my mind racing. You know, I can't shut it off. The medication, again, that I take now has helped out so much. It's changed my life, but I still deal with a lot of the same stuff. It's just more manageable. Anybody out there that watches my videos, are you guys neurodivergent? And if you are, what kind of, we'll call them symptoms for a lack of a better word that I can think of right now. What kind of symptoms are you dealing with? What kind of traits do you have that you deal with throughout the day? Kind of thing. So yeah, just curious. You know, I know I'm not the only one out there. Just curious what you guys have to say, but that's about it. I just was thinking these thoughts today, and I thought I'd make a quick little video and get you guys thinking about it too. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I'm going to sit around and wait for the snow to start because I was excited for it and I want it to happen. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys.